Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Thursday to everybody. I'm going to have to pre-record this video and upload it later. Normally, I do a live stream every Thursday at 4 p.m. and every Tuesday at 4 p.m. I will not be doing a live stream today. I just can't. It doesn't work out of my schedule, so I apologize for that. I've also had a lot of people asking me, am I going to do the Army-Navy game? Because I normally do a live play-by-play and reaction video every single weekend during the college football season for a game. The Army-Navy game is this weekend, obviously. I will not be able to do that. Not because I don't want to, not because I don't think the Army-Navy game is interesting, because I absolutely do. But I just can't. I can't do anything on Saturday. I've got other plans. So, but having said that, now that the regular season and the championship games are over, we will be entering into bowl season. We're going to talk about a handful of those games, preliminary projections for those games today. I will be planning on doing a handful of live stream play-by-play and reaction videos for some of the bowl games throughout the bowl season. And, of course, the major ones, if I can, the playoff ones, the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. I'll announce which ones I'm able to do. I'm not going to do some of the ones that aren't very compelling. I'm going to try to do the most interesting ones, and of course, they're going to have to fit into whatever schedule I have as well. Most likely, weekend ones will be the key for that. Also, with the bowl season, a little bit depressing because, we know the end is coming for college football season, and if you're a college football nut like me, which most of you are, or you wouldn't be here, it's a little bit depressing, but it's also one of the most exciting times of the year. We get to see, quote unquote, evenly matched teams from different conferences match up against each other. And there's a lot of debate throughout the year. Our conference is deeper than your conference and all that sort of thing. So it's fun to see the conferences play against each other. This year, I think the SEC and the ACC both have 11 teams in bowl games at a 14-team league, which is pretty good. But anyway, there's a lot of really interesting matchups. The early betting lines have already come out, and a lot of these betting lines have already moved. Now, this is the thing about the bowl season that I don't like, and this is sort of a new phenomenon, and everybody talks about this every single year, especially in the past 4 or 5 years. A lot of these players that are, going into the NFL are going to be highly drafted, choose to sit out the bowl game. Unless it's a playoff game or something, because they feel it's insignificant and they don't want to risk injury and putting a lot of money on the table if they do get injured. This has happened. I forget the player's name. It was a top 5 overall projected pick, and he had a major injury, and it really did hurt his draft stock. So I completely understand why these players do it. I don't like it, and this also makes it, as far as betting goes, especially if you're going to bet early, like now, because the games aren't starting for several more weeks, it makes it harder to bet, because if you're betting on a team thinking that their best player is going to be playing and then all of a sudden he bags out, that completely changes the dynamic of the spread and what may happen in the game. Anyway, I don't like it. I understand why they do it. If it were me that had to make that decision for myself, I can't say which way I'd go, but I do think it's a little bit disrespectful to the fans and to your teammates, more importantly. Forget about the fans. They've been fighting with you all year, and they want to win this bowl game, and your coaches and everybody else. But I get why they do it, but I just don't like it. Anyway, so let's get right into it here. There's so many games, I can't possibly go through. Over the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing several videos similar to this so that we can go through some of these matchups. I think I picked out 6 today. I'm not going to talk about the playoff games yet today. I'm going to save that for later. But anyway, early betting line projections, and I'll give you my thoughts on those. All right, so on the 27th, we have what I consider to be an interesting matchup. It's a rematch from last year, the Pinstripe Bowl. Of course, that's in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium. And we have a rematch from last year's Orange Bowl, which is Miami and Wisconsin. Well, first of all, both teams had high hopes coming into the season in their respective leagues. I mean, Miami was projected to be far and away the second best team in the ACC and compete with Clemson for the ACC championship and a playoff spot. It's amazing. Last year going into the championship game, the 13th game of the year, Miami was a top 5 team. They were ranked in the top 5. I think they might have been in the top 4, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, 4 or 5. And they had high hopes this year, and they had some terrible losses. They've had flashes of games where they looked really good and dominated their opponent, but I know Miami fans are very, very disappointed with their season. And you flip that to Wisconsin, and you have the same thing. Wisconsin last year went undefeated in the regular season, lost in the Big Ten championship, and got left out of the playoffs. But they did play Miami in the Orange Bowl, and they beat Miami down in Miami. So Miami opens up in this game as a 3.5-point favorite. This is a hard game to pick. I mean, even if it was just a straight-up pick, to be honest with you. But I think that the fact that Miami seems to struggle when they go up north, this game is going to be in late December in the Bronx outside. It's going to be cold. Now, I think people put a little bit too much stock on warm weather teams playing in cold weather. Obviously, Wisconsin's used to playing in the cold weather a lot more than Miami is, and a lot of these Miami kids are Florida kids, so it's not like they lived somewhere else that was a cooler climate and then just came to Miami to play football. They've been living in that heat sauna weather their entire life, the vast majority of them. And also, Miami struggles like I said, away from home. The further away from home they go, the more they struggle. So I'm going to pick Wisconsin as an underdog against the spread here. Next on the list, we have the Music City Bowl, and that is on the 28th of December. And, of course, that's in Tennessee. We have Auburn and Purdue. And now, this is an interesting matchup. First of all, Auburn's another team that had high hopes coming into the season. I mean, last year, they won the West. And then lost in the SEC championship game, but they beat Georgia and Alabama before laying an egg in Atlanta against Georgia. And then Purdue, on the other hand, Purdue is normally an average team. They had a better than average team season this year, and are credited for basically keeping the Big Ten out of the playoffs, if you ask me, because their drubbing of Ohio State is, in my opinion, what kept Ohio State out. But we can argue about that till the cows come home. But I feel as if Ohio State had lost that game by 3 points, then there would have been a much better debate, closer debate, whether or not it would be Oklahoma or Ohio State at that 4th spot. But anyways, Purdue is a 4-point underdog in this game. I think I'm going to pick Auburn in this game. The main reason is because Auburn does have, despite the fact that they had a disappointing season, Auburn, I mean, talent-wise, there's no comparison between Auburn and Purdue talent-wise. Auburn has a dominant defensive front, and Purdue, that is their bread and butter, is running the football. So I expect that Auburn can at least limit the run game there and force them to pass the ball. And also Auburn's disappointing loss to UCF last year in the New Year's Six bowl game in Atlanta. I don't think that they're going to get caught slipping this year. I don't think that they're going to overlook Purdue or be disappointed that they are where they are. I think they're going to try to avenge their embarrassing loss to UCF last year. So I'm taking Auburn, even with the -4. So the next on the list, the Camping World Bowl, and that is on the 28th also of December. And Syracuse and West Virginia. Now, this is one I might think about streaming if I can. See how it works out. I think this is going to be a compelling game. I love this kind of matchup here. Obviously, West Virginia's a great team. They have a Heisman candidate, Will Grier. Well, he's not, I don't know. He's not a Heisman candidate anymore, is he? But he was all year. West Virginia was a really good team this year. They took it all the way down to the last week of the season to see if they were going to go to the Big 12 championship game. Couldn't get it done. But anyway, Syracuse, the first bowl that they've made in I don't know how many years this year. They had a great season. We all know that they beat Clemson last year, took them down to the wire this year. But last year, Syracuse was only a 4-win team, and they won 8 games this year. That's a minor miracle. And that coach they have, Dino Babers, he won't be at Syracuse for too long. He might be there for another season or two, but somebody will snatch him up, especially if he continues to win 8 or 9 games at Syracuse, consecutively. That's the key here, not just 1 year. But the thing about both these teams is they both have high-powered offenses. They both have senior, very experienced quarterbacks. Obviously, Will Grier, and for Syracuse, I can't even think of his name right now. Dungy. Yeah. Anyway, they both can score a lot of points on you quick. They both have okay defenses, but not great defenses. I was a little bit surprised to see West Virginia as a full touchdown favorite here. Now, as far as picking the winner of the game outright, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pick against the spread. So West Virginia could still win the game, but I'm picking Syracuse to cover the 7 and maybe win outright. But if Syracuse loses, I think it'll be by less than a touchdown. I'm looking forward to that game. I can't wait for that. Next on the list, the 29th of December, we have the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. Florida and Michigan. I think this would be a great game, too. Now, I've been to the Peach Bowl. I went to the Peach Bowl when Clemson played LSU. What year is that? 2012? 13? Something like that. I can't even remember. That was when it was at the Georgia Dome. And, of course, Clemson beat LSU at the last second, and that was great. But anyway, the Peach Bowl, Atlanta holds a great bowl game. The pregame, you're all meshed together in the Atlanta Underground. And, it's awesome. I don't know. If you've never been to the Peach Bowl and you live somewhere in the Southeast, even if your team's not playing in it, I mean, obviously that would be better if they were. But I suggest that you go, especially with that new stadium. I haven't been there, but it looks pretty amazing. Anyway, Michigan is a 7.5-point favorite in this game. Now, do I think Michigan's a better team than Florida? Yeah, I do. But 7.5 points, I mean, Florida has one of the better defenses that Michigan's faced all year. Now, don't come on here and cry and moan about how, well, they played Ohio State. Ohio State has a great defense, and and start naming defenses in the Big Ten that Michigan's played. Okay, the good defenses, the better defenses that Michigan has faced, they've either struggled with or lost the football game. So that's my point here. I'm not bashing the Big Ten anyway. But they lost to Notre Dame, who has a great defense. They lost to Ohio State, who has a great defense. And, they had some struggle wins against a couple of other teams, but they have good defenses. And Florida, whatever you think about Florida, they do have a good defense. So this will be one of the toughest tests that Michigan's seen all year. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not going to pick the winner of this game outright either, but I'm taking Florida with the points. 7.5 points where it is right now. I'm sure that'll move one way or another between now and then, but where it's at right now, I'm taking. If you're going to bet today, take Florida with the points. Next on the list, the Belk Bowl. This is in Charlotte, and this is the University of South Carolina Gamecocks, my favorite football team of all time. I love them, in case you didn't know that. And the University of Virginia Cavaliers. Now, South Carolina is a better team than Virginia. I realized that Virginia had a great year this year compared to what Virginia normally does. Virginia is usually a middle of the road, sometimes even lower tier, most years lower tier ACC team. They're just not that good. They're certainly not that consistent. They have been getting better the past couple of years. I do think that Bronco Mendenhall is a good coach because I've been bashed by Virginia fans. I made a Bronco Mendenhall video. They're still leaving comments. Hell, that was like 6 months ago. But it wasn't about him as a coach. It was about some comments that he made, but that's besides the point. Virginia is capable of beating South Carolina. South Carolina is only favored by 4, so that tells you what Vegas thinks of Virginia's ability, okay? I'm sorry. I'm taking South Carolina. As much as I don't want to, I think that South Carolina is just better than Virginia talent-wise. And I would love to see Virginia win this game. As a matter of fact, of course, anybody who knows me knows that I'll be pulling for South Carolina to lose this game, especially since it's against an ACC team. But on the other hand, if you're South Carolina and you win this game and you're going to run around bragging about beating an ACC team, it's just Virginia. Calm down. Anyway, I'm taking South Carolina with the points. And the last one I'm going to do today is the Gator Bowl, and that is going to be on New Year's Eve. And it's going to be NC State and Texas A&M. Texas A&M is currently a 3-point favorite. I was a little bit shocked when I saw that line. I had to do a double take on it. So I would have thought that A&M would have been more heavily favored than 3 points. Now, NC State, they're streaky. They're not consistent, but they have the ability to score a lot of points. Ryan Finley is the real deal. You're going to see him in the NFL draft. He'll be one of the first ones off the board, one of the first quarterbacks off the board. But NC State's biggest problem is all of the NFL talent they lost off of defense last year, so their defense was not near as good this year as it was last year. It was a tough year for NC State. A&M, on the other hand, it was much better than I thought they were going to be with that transition to a new head coach, playing in the West, having to play Clemson. They played some tough games this year, but they played these games, their opponents, well. A&M was not a easy out for anybody, and I think that A&M is on the rise in the West, and you're going to see with Jimbo Fisher, whatever you think about Jimbo Fisher, he's a great football coach. I mean, I think he's a dirtbag. I think he's a liar, and I think he's a snake. But that doesn't have anything to do with football. He's a hell of a recruiter, and he's a hell of a football coach, especially offensive and quarterback coach. So I think A&M is going to be a real force to be reckoned with here in the next few years, especially after he gets a couple of recruiting cycles under his belt and gets his players in there. Having said that, I don't think that NC State is any match for Texas A&M. Okay. So 3 points. I don't know what the reasoning behind that is in Vegas. Why would they would set it that low? Do they think that NC State really is that comparable to A&M? That's just a really low line. I would have thought it would be over a touchdown, maybe 7.5 or 8 points. But anyway, nonetheless, I'm taking A&M. But I'll be pulling for NC State. Everybody knows I'm going to be pulling for the ACC to win their games, especially my Clemson Tigers. That's a whole nother video, though. So there you have it, folks. I will be posting videos randomly throughout bowl season talking about these games, and we'll see when I'm right. And again, most of these betting lines are going to move, well, probably all of them, several times between now and when they actually play the game. So if I miss one of these lines and you tell me it was wrong, but it was right when I picked it, well, no, sorry. Anyway, it's all in fun anyway. I don't bet on football, but if you bet on any of my picks and you lose, forget I ever said anything. Delete YouTube. If you win, send it to the P.O. Box. I'll leave a link in the description of this video to my P.O. Box. It's only right to send me some of your winnings, and since I did help you pick the winner. So that's it. And I guess I will see you guys very soon, but no show today. No live show today. Sorry about that. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete, checking out.